First off, Asheville and Buncombe County have had a really interesting conversation around water.
Just past 6 weeks, yeah.
It's been an issue for a long time.
Yeah. And it travels a long way to get to Asheville.
I'm curious to find out what are those conversations in the inner circle like now.
Oh, I bet they're a bit debative. I bet they're probably a bit fragmented, and people have different ideas too.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I mean, I read an article somewhere about the water that's feeding Asheville in Buncombe County is coming from the SWANNANOA region.
It's coming from right here.
Yeah.
It's a quarter mile from my house.
Yeah. So where does water rights?
But see, and that's the problem I have with what happened to SWANNANOA over the last, I don't know, we can say 100 years, if not longer. Asheville, it's just like what happens with Las Vegas. All these other places they're dry as a whistle, but then Vegas is getting all this water and it's being deterred and moved. Well, that's happening here too. Asheville, the city, gets all the water. Black Mountain has its own set of water, and that's okay, and they're fine. We're lush and plush with water. But then SWANNANOA, they have water. They get more water than they need, but it's coming in the form of the river. But none of the buildings, none of the resources went to SWANNANOA where all of the water is coming from. Right. They're the mouth of the river.
Yeah. And
you'd think that we would have taken care of them first.
Well, that's one of the difficulties about having a non-incorporated township.
So is SWANNANOA going to try to do this now? Are they going to become an incorporated town? Is this the only thing holding them up?
I was reading something about the Helene aftermath, and somebody mentioned that this topic.
Yeah.
Is SWANNANOA still in its great disrepair after Helene versus other areas in their disrepair? People are comparing that to SWANNANOA disrepair, which, I mean, SWANNANOA was just ransacked by water and by mudslides and by the devastation. The death and devastation is just super sad, super impressive, not as in a highlighted impressive, but just really depressing.
So one frustration I had when Tulsi Gabbard came the second time, first off, I'm really grateful that she's still coming back to the area, but she brought friends with her, and I don't think she's the one making the plans for where they land, but she landed in Asheville and then a second spot off Smoky Park Highway, which is where I met her and did that video, 500,000 views now. But then she went to Weaverville, which did have damage, but then she went back down to Hendersonville. And I'm like, why can't you just make it to SWANNANOA and just drop in SWANNANOA one time and just see it firsthand?
Sure.
And so she's stopping at these local businesses, and I think that she's just trying to support small business. But whoever's like creating the itinerary there, you can tell they're not from here, right? Because if they were from here, they'd have said, well, she definitely needs to stop in SWANNANOA.
Sure.
She needs to stop in where we get coffee and meat.
Yeah.
She just needs to go into one of those side shops right there and just say hello and meet the people.
Sure.